Hello friends, welcome to my Azure developer tutorial. Today we are going to go through the first lesson of this series called the Azure App Services. So in this particular video, you will see the skills like exploring Azure App Service, configuration, scaling, and what is App Service Plan. So let us jump in. What do you think is an Azure App Service? In my previous videos, we have seen multiple Azure services like SaaS services, PaaS services, and ES services. Which one do you think app service comes under? So let me give you a hint. Here, we do not really bother about what is the underlying machine, what is the hardware. We don't have to be bothered about the upgrading your OS and any other upgrades, but you will be given an interface where you can deploy your HTTP websites, and it is not a licensing model. Correct. So it is a PaaS service, platform as a service. So think of it as an IIS that you have rented, and you will pay only for whatever services you're using, and you really do not have to be bothered about the underlying Windows machines on which this IIS is hosted. Okay, so the definition is that Azure App Service is an HTTP based service which is used for hosting web applications, REST APIs, including WCF or ASMX web services, and mobile backends. You can code in any of your favorite languages. You can host it natively on Linux for supported application stacks. We also have Windows, but the point here is we do have support for Linux application stacks as well. And if you really want to know what are the supported languages, you can actually go and check the list of runtimes supported during this time, because the product group keeps on updating and adding support for multiple languages. As of now, we have Node.js, Java, Go language, .NET Core, PHP, Python, Ruby, all of that. So you can actually use this command. In fact, we can go ahead and check it out right now. Let's go to the cloud bash command. Let's say az web app, oops, list runtimes. Okay, so it's going to list the runtimes for a web application, both for Windows. If you see here .NET 7, 6, even if we have 4.8, which is the latest ASP.NET framework. After that, we started to get .NET Core. We have support for Node, Java on Windows, as well as if you see here on Linux, we have Tomcat, JBoss, Java, of course, PHP, Ruby, Python, Node, and .NET Core, right? So, okay. So one of the advantages of the PaaS components is that the scaling is inbuilt. Okay, what is scaling? So depending on your usage of your application, your web app needs to scale up, down, or scale in and out, right? Scaling up and down, the definition is a refresher from the previous videos. You can add, I mean, the addition of or a reduction of the resources of the machines. Like if you're using more CPU or more memory, so the number of cores get added or removed, or the memory gets added or removed depending on your usage. That is scaling up and down. And scaling in and out means increasing or decreasing the number of instances itself. So addition of more Windows or machines underlying your service is called scaling in and out. So this scaling is automated, I mean built in your web app. Again, it depends on what kind of pricing tier that you are in. So this is available for both Windows and Linux based environments. You have ability inbuilt to scale up, down, scale in and out. So we've seen what is that. And how much we can scale depends on the app service plan which is chosen. Okay, so now here we are getting into another concept called app service plan. So what is an app service plan, right? Every application that you're deploying or every app service that you're hosting is within a physical container called an app service plan. Like a logical container is a resource group, but a physical container is a app service plan. This app service plan, you can actually think of it as a set of compute resources for your application to run. So this is like going to provide us the hardware required for running your application. In fact, one or more applications can be chosen to run on the same app service plan. So it is like a kind of a layer which you can run more than one application as well, right? So definition of the app service plan is it is defines a set of compute resources for a web app to run. We can have one or more web apps configured to run under the same app service plan. So we are imagining this as underlying virtual machines with CPU and memory and number of instances, which is decided by your tier, pricing tier. Okay, so what is a tier? Yeah. So each app service plan, whenever you define, you have to actually select a region, number of VM instances, size of the VM instances, as well as a pricing tier, right? The pricing tier is starts from free or shared, which is generally for dev or test related workloads, and then basic, standard, premium, premium V2R, and premium V3 are also production related critical workloads where you get a dedicated VMs. But an isolated workload is basically where you are not just getting a dedicated VM, but also you have a dedicated network, right? So all of that you have an ability to select the app service plan, and depending on the type of tier that you are in, you can actually decide, or basically the scaling depends on the number of instances, and that's all decided by the pricing tier that you are in. Okay. Shortly we'll go through a demo and we will see how do we create an app service plan. I'll show you, just bear with me. So, as I mentioned to you, pricing tier is what it determines what features we get and how much we pay, sorry, for the plan. And there are few categories of the pricing tiers: shared compute, dedicated compute, and isolate. Right? Shared, think of it as a multi-tenant, which means that you actually get like a resource quota on a machine. Similar to you, multiple other customers must also have got same quota on the same machine. So it's like multiple customer applications are residing on the same machine, which may really be not a desired one when you are running your production workloads. There could be, um, you know, uh, I mean, you're not on a totally secure environment. So basically, that's the reason it's only recommended for dev or test purposes. You have single tenant, which is like a dedicated VMs for dedicated compute. Here we have all those from shared to premium workloads. And isolated, of course, is totally isolated network wise, compute wise. The most powerful machine or the powerful pricing tier is isolated. So these are the different tiers that are available, and you can actually, when you go, when we'll see the demo, we can see what are the different instance types available for each of these tiers. So the first one is the shared resources. You don't have dedicated VMs. In dedicated compute, we have dedicated VMs, and in isolated, we not just have dedicated VMs, but we also have dedicated virtual networks. No compute or network isolation. Here it is compute isolation and both compute and network isolation. Okay, so, and with respect to scaling, the shared compute does not scale out. In fact, you cannot have any of the Linux based apps on a shared compute. So whenever you're selecting your underlying framework or the underlying supported runtime to be a Linux based one, you cannot select a shared compute pricing tier. Let us do a quick knowledge check. All right, can you move an app to a different app service plan? So you can move an app to a different app service plan as long as the source plan and the target plan are in the same resource group and are in the same region. Okay, so if the target app service plan that you're moving to is in a different resource group or in a different region, then you cannot. Next question. Is Linux supported on a shared pricing tier? Linux is not supported on the shared pricing tier. Minimum you will need a dedicated compute or an isolated tier for having Linux. Can you mix Linux and Windows and Linux apps in the same app service plan? No, you cannot. You can have it in the same resource group, but in an same app service plan, you cannot have Linux and Windows based apps. Can you move an app to a different region? Directly, we cannot. As I mentioned to you in the first answer, that you could move an app to a different app service plan as long as it's in the same geographical region and same resource group. But if you want to move an application to a different region, you have to clone an application, and please check out my next video to know how to clone an application. Yeah, how to do cloning is the answer for the previous question, and do check out my next video. Can you scale an app independently from another app in the same app service plan? As I mentioned in the previous slide, that if you see that some of the apps are not written efficiently and are consuming a lot of resources, then you need to basically scale an app independently from another app to be able to ensure that the other apps are not getting impacted. This concept is called in-app scaling. And is it available for all the tiers? No, it's not available for all. It's only available for dedicated compute and isolated. For shared tier, you will not be able to configure per app scaling. All right. Thank you. It's time for demo. Please stay tuned for my next videos where we'll try to create an app and go through the different pricing tiers in an app service plan, and also try to clone an application. Thank you so much.